I remember you telling us that there was funding available for, is this those hospitalizations that happened because of COVID at
Right.
Heartland?
And originally in December, I guess I didn't realize that it was federal dollars, and I hadn't covered a purchase order out of our general fund. And of course, that's not going to work because last month we created the budget, which included the CARES Act in our budget for those indigent fund dollars. So that's the reason they're delayed, because I've been waiting for the fund to be created. And now that it's created and we have appropriations in there, we can spend them now.
Okay, so we had to this is because it needed to be on a different line item, basically.
Right, we had to change the line item and put appropriations in, and we didn't have a board meeting in January, so that just put us a little bit further behind.
Okay. Does anyone have questions for Michelle about the reason for the then and now? If not, we need a motion and a second to take this to the full board.
Does Jennifer, I make the motion to approve the then and now request?
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Kelly. All those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay. Anyone opposed or abstaining? Okay, we'll take that to the full board then. Next on our list is the review and approval of expenditures for March of 2021, and that's on pages 13 and 14 in your full board, in your board packet that was just sent out by Danielle, I think yesterday. Anything specific to note on here, Michelle?
Well, this isn't usually an annual bill, but I think Crystal Springs under 843 office supplies, it has become an annual bill. This is the first time we've gotten water in a year. So we're ready for COVID to be done. And so is Crystal Spring.
I'm sure they are.
But I mean, that's just, the next item would be halfway through, 883 liability insurance, Kennedy Insurance Agency. That's a one-time bill, or one-time annual bill.
Okay.
So that you don't see that very often. Right below that, Natalie.
Hey, Michelle, on that, have we ever bid that out? That seems like pretty high based on other boards I've been on.
We have not. I've tried to contact other local insurance agencies, but we are kind of we're unique, and it's difficult we don't meet the guidelines like a business would. So
Right.
Well,
I know, like, there's different ones, I know Hanhart Pipes, the one we have
Miller.
there, and I forget the name of it.
There's a Miller.
Yeah.
And Miller.
So,
yeah,
each one's different, and, like some of them do nonprofit, some of them, but I just wonder if we ever did. I'm not saying we have to. I was just curious if we ever did bid that out. So, just curious.
But we did try to get some, you make contact and get some people who, could possibly write us up something, but Kennedy was the only one at that point. So we can try again.
And that's been a while,
Okay,
right?
just curious. Thank you.
Well, it might, since we're just now paying for another year, so it might be something to keep in mind when this rolls around for our renewal.
Yeah.
Good
Try
try.
it. So, okay. Anything else, Michelle?
On the second page, at the very top, you'll see the 727 system audit. CMH sent us a bill for $3,115, and that exceeded the system audit line item by $1,065. And I just want to give you a little background. Last year was the first time that they did a single audit. So their expenses last year were greater than we had expected for fiscal year 19. So this audit is for fiscal year 20. We did increase it significantly to cover a single audit, but on this last, I just want to read you this little clip that's on this last invoice. It says opinion audit for the period ending June 30th, 2020, including single audit work and extra time and work on wrap up and lack of guidance from government on CARES Act treatment, $5,230. Then they said less courtesy adjustment and they cut the bill in half. So, I mean, they cut that amount in half and didn't charge the agency the full amount. So I think it's beyond CMH's control. So
Who does their audit?
Ray and Associates.
Hmm.
Why are we obligated to pay for their audit? I'm just, don't understand that.
We have it in our contract that well, at least, I don't know if it's still in our contract or not, but we have typically paid for all of our agencies until they started branching off into other groups. So with PFCS being audited under Guidestone, we're not going to pay for that audit. And the same with Southeast. They're connected, anybody who's affiliated with a large organization isn't going to be our responsibility. Community mental health care is the only agency. The main reason we did this was so we had some control over who they were going with and things like that. So just to make sure that we got what we needed for reporting purposes to the county and the state. But the other option or other reason is if we don't pay this, they're going to put it in their budget and make us pay it anyways. They would factor it in. Of course, they might not factor in this extra.
Right, that was my only thought, is if in the future, if we looked at, that we would budget a certain amount for, and within their contract for their audit, and then, if it exceeded that, then they might have to figure out how they were going to take care of it.
Really, let me make a suggestion on that. I think we should go ahead and pay it this year because, we've kind of obligated ourselves, but I think we should notify community mental health care in advance that we want before they incur the audit, we want to see an audit proposal so we know what we're getting into cost-wise, because this is pretty much a carte blanche to bill whatever they wish since they don't have to pay it. So I think, I deal with a lot of audits with a lot of organizations, and they've done this audit for many years. They should certainly be able to give us an idea what the cost is going to be before we commit to it.
And like I said, last year was their first single audit. So that's the first time that they didn't even realize they were going to be eligible for a single audit until the auditors came in. At that point, that creates extra work because it's a single audit and not just a financial statement. So this year, like I said, we budgeted more to cover that, but because there wasn't enough guidance for the auditors to determine the CARES Act, they spent more time. And that's not something that CMH would know either. Of course, all the federal dollars that we're getting are confusing because you're not getting a lot of guidance necessarily with them. But yeah, if we can just say, hey, we'll pay up to this much. And after that, if anything goes over it, it's your baby.
I like that idea of putting a limit on it in the future.
Okay.
And putting it back in their contract, right? But
yeah, we could put it in the, what we could do is probably maybe add it to the addendum that lists all the services and just include it in their contract total.
right.
Yeah.
And that not be a line item that can be shifted, with other dollars, specifically that cannot exceed. Okay.
I have a question. The Carroll County Court amount, I see that's a pass-through. Could someone just remind me what that is for again?
That is for the specialty docket court, and that's the drug court out in Carroll County. And they must have applied for 75,000, and that's more than the local courts here received together. So, I mean, I think that's awesome because I know they need it. So that's just, pass through to them mostly for personnel.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought it seemed a little high and I was just curious to know what it is. Yeah, good for them for getting that grant.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I don't know if it's consistently going to stay that high. I was talking with the person that's in charge of this funding at the state. This is the first year, like Michelle said, that they've applied. I think it's kind of a cushioned amount to get them through the first year, but I don't know that it's going to stay that high.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we would need a motion and a second to approve the list of bills for $334,285.26.
This is Paul. I'll make that.
Thank you. And is there a second?
I'll second again. This is Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly. All right, all those in favor, please say aye or show your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Or anyone abstaining? All right, motion carried, and we'll take that to the full board. Last thing on our list is the review and approval of the financial statements through February of 2021. And I'll let Michelle talk to us about anything unusual. And my main question always is, Michelle, do we seem to be on track as far as our revenue collection and expenses? And I noticed that it seems like as far as the percentages, we've brought in almost 60% of our revenue, and we've also spent 59% of the revenue. So that seems pretty close.
Well, and some of these funds they have to be drawn down. So until they're drawn down and we actually receive them to put them in the receipts, they'll still look a little bit low, because like the ECMH expansion, that's a drawdown. So that's only at 60%, where the regular state allocations are at 75%. If the agencies don't generate the full amount of the revenue, then they don't get paid the full amount. So it's offset. If they're not going to get it all in revenue, they're not going to get it all in, we're not going to have it all in expenses either.
Yeah. Mhm.
Mike, can you keep scrolling down to the expense revenue reports? Thank you.
So I think the state is where we get the bulk of our revenues. So with them, we're almost at 75% on everything, or even 100% on a couple.
Okay. So there's nothing really that comes to mind or to your attention that's out of the ordinary on these?
The only thing is, at this point, everything that we approved at last month's board meeting as a contract amendment,
Mm-hmm.
Those funds, most of those funds, like the SOAR grant and the RSP grant, those funds have not been applied for yet, because we had to get awarded the funds and then they had to be spent before they could be appropriated. So there will be more funds coming in here. I did put in some of the items that we did approve. Well, actually, I put in all the items of the contract amendments that we approved in here, so you can see where we're actually at with those adjustments. And we're still in pretty good shape.
Okay, and that does bring to mind a question. All of those asterisk items that we approved where, the funding was pending coming in, we did receive approval for all of those items?
It came in like, I might have been on Thursday and Friday. I mean,
Okay.
as soon as Natalie said it, it was like, boom, boom, they were here. So we've got them all.
Great. Okay. Does anyone have other questions for Michelle about the balance sheet or the statement of revenue and expense? Okay, if there are none, then we would need a motion and a second to approve the financial statements as presented on pages 15 through 18.
I move to approve those financial statements.
Thanks, Kelly.
This is Jennifer. I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion carried, and we'll take that to the full board. And unless someone else has another item they want to discuss, that wraps up the budget committee meeting for today. I think we did that in record time.
It was fast.
That's great.
Pretty
All
easy.
right. Okay, so
Clarification, is there another link to get to the full board meeting, right?
Yes.
Another Zoom, it's separate? Okay.
Same